If all of the most brilliant minds across all of time could be in one place in Africa today and speak to Africans as a whole, what would they say? Well, I have gone through some research, I've gone through some history, and I'd like to share some things with you about Africa. Africa as a continent is one of the most richest continents, the most wealthiest continent across the world. Most times when people talk about Africa's wealth, they talk about the minerals they have, the oil they have, and many other things. But Africa's wealth is in their mind. It's in their history. We had ancient advanced civilization in Egypt before there was ever any Europe, there was ever any America, before there was ever any West. But the problem is that many Africans are going through so much hardship today that if you even visit Egypt, you won't feel like there was any form of advancement that is beyond the first world. There's a subtle lie that is being told to Africans. And that lie is that you're behind, you're catching up. But that's not true. Africa is not behind. Africa is just repositioning itself. And so I'm calling on every builder. And if you're watching my video, you've been initiated to be a builder in any country in Africa, to understand your history, understand your roots, understand the value proposition of each country in Africa. We must be united. One of the things that has affected us negatively in Africa is tribalism, and then a step up from tribalism is the subtle jabs we throw at each other as countries. Yes, we don't have it all together. We might not be perfect. There are bad people and good people in every country in Africa. It is your job as a business, as an organization, as an individual to be able to discern the good people and work with them. But when we have the culture of saying, oh, no, I've met 5 bad Nigerians, I've met 4 bad Ghanaians, I've met 3 bad South Africans, then all South Africans are these, all Ghanaians are these, we're never going to move forward. Africa is the only continent where a farmer in Ethiopia farms some form of tea and then sends it to Europe. They work on it and then they bring it back and it's sold 10 times more expensive. Africa is the only continent where flight internation is more expensive than going to Europe from Nigeria or going to Europe from South Africa. Now, I'm not here to talk about the problems. I'm here to steer you up to understand Africa, because Africa is the next big thing. This is not hype. This is what the data is saying. Right now, we have 1.4 billion Africans in Africa. And out of that 1.4 billion, the average median age is 19. We have the youngest work population in the world. The average median age in a place like Germany is 46. Other countries, 49. It's that high. But in Africa, 19. Not just that. We have some of the richest reserves of rare earth minerals, of all kinds of mineral resources we need to build for the next 100 years. The Congo River can power Africa times 2, the entire continent times 2. The Sahara Desert has the highest form of solar energy potential in the world. Africa has 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. The list is endless. I can go on and on and on and on to tell you things about Africa that you might not know. Are there problems in Africa? Yes. We have so many problems. Corruption, trust issues. We have geopolitical issues. Wars right now are going on that the news is not even carrying. Africans have been so traumatized by crises, by terrorism and wars that people are now adjusting to them. More than 600 million Africans do not have access to light or stable electricity. See, we have a list of problems. You ask the average African, they will by the time they begin to tell you about the problems in their country, you'll be like, listen. And that's why the average African, not every, but most Africans, given the opportunity, they would leave Africa. But I'm telling you, a time will come that not just Africans, many foreigners will want to come to Africa. And so I want to challenge you. If you're an African or you love Africa, research the history of Africa. Look at the leaders that have done good. Look at the future of Africa. Look at the data of Africa. I'll give an example on why it's important to not just listen to the news, but pay attention to technical reports. Pay attention to things that are in between the line. Right now in Nigeria can only generate 4,000 megawatts for a population of over 200 million people, as compared to Germany that has, I think, 80 million people, and they're generating 80,000 megawatts. Can you imagine? It's been a long problem for many years. I grew up with not having consistent light. I didn't even know what it meant to have consistent light until I moved to certain places, and I'm like, oh wow, you can actually have consistent light. So many people would use generators and the noise and etc. But right now, Nigeria is one of the fastest countries switching to green energy in Africa and in the world. Right now, we don't even have the policies yet. The government is not pushing for it. The average Nigerian is investing in solar energy. The average Nigerian is investing in bio. There's so much happening right now that if you pay attention to Nigeria, you pay attention to Africa, you'll find out that the problems, the things that they used to say, your point, this, your point, that is now becoming our advantage. Countries like Ghana, countries like Kenya, they were able to leapfrog. They didn't have the kind of financial infrastructure that some first world countries had. But these guys, some of these countries, and other countries too, they were able to advance in mobile banking in a way that it connected to several things, their personal identity, tax, several things. So if you look at every country in Africa, you would see how the problems that they had, the plethora of problems that they had, became the advantage point for a quantum leap, for a catapult into innovation that has not yet shown. Now, the only way you'd be able to see these things is if you study in between the lines. If you study in between the lines. One of the problems that we have faced as Africans is that we think a leader, a hero, is the person who is going to save, whether it be Nigeria, whichever African country you're in. But it's a system. It's a system where the moment that person, that leader is no longer there, it keeps running. And so there is a need for leaders who understand how to build systems that can operate with the same values, with the same mindset, the principles that they live by in their absence. And that's the reason why sometimes in an African country, an average African country, you can have a good leader. When he dies or his tenure is over, the country goes back 10 years backward. And so there's just so much. But for the sake of time, I would say this. Your most important tool is your mind. It's not AI. It's not cloud computing. It's not quantum. It's not engineering. It's your mind. You have to read. You have to study. And it's not about amassing knowledge. It's like intuition, actually. It's a thing that can be defined. It's the ability to have the knowledge, but then sit with the knowledge and read between where the knowledge is not. So it's actually allowing nature speak to you, nation speak to you. It works with heart posture, your mindset, your perspective. So if I look at Nigeria and I read all of the bad things happening and I choose to focus on those things, I would never be able to see where Nigeria is going to. Same with South Africa, Ethiopia. Same with any country, Rwanda, any country in Africa. But if you look at your country, and that's what I want you to do, look at the news, look at the bad things happening, then change your heart posture. In each of those problems, I want you to see solutions and how you can build. So if you have villages that do not have any power, see it as an opportunity to set them up on green energy. So they never have to transition from what is not green to what is green. So see it that way. And I'm telling you, you would not just be well-to-do. You would not just be blessed. We would experience such advancement, so much so, with all due respect to other continents, that some of their people might come to learn from us. When we shift from the idea that only what is imported is good. And it's why some of us, with all due respect, we prefer expatriates to work, because we think, oh, no, if this person, you see that the first thing we need to do is a mind work, because we have the tools when it comes to education. If you're not satisfied with what the education you're receiving in your location, there are open courseware from MIT, Harvard, so many organizations that you can learn from. So education is not the problem. But you see, mindset, that's the problem. The strongholds that we've inherited, the trauma we've inherited, that's the problem. And so every African owes his or herself to become mindful, go through therapy, even if it's self-therapy. Understand your mind frames. Understand the strongholds in your mind that needs to leave, that you inherited from your father or your mother. Understand where you have a scarcity mindset. You see, all of these things is why when you look at corruption, the worst corruption is not what the leaders are doing. It's what the people, the civilians are doing. The reason why our leaders can do the kind of corruption they do at scale, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should not hold them accountable, is because corruption happens on a much smaller scale. And I'm not trying to call out anybody, but you evaluate your country, you find out that the corruption is worst with people that are not in power compared to people who are in power. It's just more apparent because the people in power are out there. So you can tell that, oh, this amount of money is missing. But we have good people. We have many good people. I'll be generous to say that my father is a good person. My dad, for many years, was not allowed to be promoted because they wanted a bribe. But he stood his ground. There are certain things that my father would have gotten by now, but he has always been a man of just means. And the way I see it, if every African can be like my dad, at least in that area, listen, corruption is going to die a natural death. Because corrupt leaders need corrupt citizens to enable their corruption. And the list is endless. So I want to challenge you. I will not be able to talk about each country in Africa in this video, talk about the possibilities, what we can achieve on the front of energy, on the front of food security, and many other aspects. But I want you to study Africa. But this time, don't just go after information. Don't just go after knowledge. Don't just go after facts and stats. I want you to change your heart posture. As an African, as someone who loves Africa, whether you're living in Africa right now or you're living out of Africa, change your heart posture. You might have experienced pain. You might have experienced something that's negatively impacted your family. Maybe a loved one was kidnapped, killed. Maybe you experienced a form of terrorism. Maybe you fled from your home and you've told yourself you will never return to Africa. Listen, Africa is the future. And it's not hype. It's not fluff. If you read with an open heart, you would see that it's true. And so we must be willing to rebuild. A time will come that will have the right leaders. And the time is now, right? Because a leader is not a politician. A leader is one who begins to move in the right direction, where Africa will be habitable. I know that generally there are many places that are habitable, that is easy to live in urban areas. But you see, rural areas will not need to change to be habitable. Africa will be safe end to end because of you and me. Not because of a few politicians, but because watching me right now is an engineer that will rethink the entire science of energy supply, and would bring what he has learned in the UK, what she has learned in America or in Hong Kong or in China, whatever country you're studying in, and bring that knowledge to a small village and make that village self-sustaining. There's someone watching me who you understand, you're a teacher, but beyond teaching knowledge, you understand the brain, you understand neuroscience, you understand psychology. You found yourself beyond your degrees, right? You found yourself studying interconnected nodes of knowledge. You would come to Africa and you would build a kind of educational system that the world has never seen. Africa will be your perfect canvas. And so I'm not counting on our leaders, the present leaders, and I mean no disrespect. We have good leaders, yes, but I'm counting on you and me. We are the builders who would come and with the right heart posture, build, secure, protect, scale, such that we will plant trees of which shade we will not sit under. We would understand what compounding means. Now, not just in finance in terms of compounding interest, but what it means to compound the right seeds, the good deeds, so that our children's children would enjoy Africa. I believe in Africa. And if you do, let me know how much and let me know in what aspect in the comments. Thank you.